digital screens and Taupo CBD. Point of clarification, Your Worship, this was handled during the deliberations, the draft annual plan. I thought a decision was made during that. Why has it been relitigated now?
Thanks, Mr. Green.
So you discussed this through the draft annual plan, and in fact, going back a step from that, you advertised it public consultation as part of that. It wasn't part of the annual plan, which is that you utilised that advertising process at the same time. What that means is that each of those decisions needs its own debate and discussion and decision. As you know, you can't make decisions in workshops, they have to be in a meeting. There's the next available meeting after that. Hence, these items have been put to you, just like the annual plan has also been put to you in an item today, which can be debated one way or the other. So to make a decision in council can only be done in this form. You have had, and I acknowledge you have had straw polls on these, the same as you've had straw polls on the annual plan as you've gone through, but a formal decision has to come to council.
Therefore, the decisions that are made on 4 items that are on our agenda, that in fact are on the annual plan for approval, states the way that the decisions were made during the deliberations.
Again, you haven't made any decisions, you've had straw polls, but legally you can't make decisions until today. What you've got in front of you is items from officers, which you also have done there in terms of outlining the risks, the benefits as they see them, their recommendation as they see them. It's up to you as council to have to agree with that like any item. It's about your risks and your benefits. You can come to your own conclusion.
That conclusion, through you, Your Worship, is defined in the Act. The problem that I'm finding is that we also did not have those deliberations minuted. I don't know whether that's an issue or not.
They have been minuted, but they...
As in the verbal minutes, like we got on webcam.
No, they'll be at the next council meeting. They will be included in the agenda for receiving.
So, Your Worship, they're going to be received after the event.
Is that the way normal procedure?
Certainly the last annual plan that happened as well, just the timing, and to be able to get them all completed and on the agenda.
Through Your Worship, I would find it quite useful to cite those minutes as we go through this process, that's all, to have them in retrospect. I don't think it's very helpful to making informed decisions.
Through the Chair, these particular items that were consulted on at the same time as the annual plan, there is no financial implication in respect of the annual plan itself. These are have not been, that they're standalone, they're not part of the annual plan.
So it's for you, Mr. Chairman. So in regard to that, so we're going to be responding twice to those who submitted them.
No. So
it must be though.
No. So in the responses to the submitters, and correct me sir if I get this wrong, but the responses to those submitters are basically kept blank until you've made this decision. Once you've made this decision, then those responses will be filled in with the response from the decisions, the 4 decisions that you're making today on these 4 items that you consulted with. Again, backing the truck back, these items normally would be standalone items that would come to you, and you'd normally probably, given the size of them, you'd probably workshop them as you did. You probably workshop them before you got to a formal meeting situation. The difference here is that you as a council said, for efficiency's sake, we want to go out and consult with the public. Some of them you had to, some of them you wanted to, you didn't have to. And then for efficiency's sake, we'll do that alongside the annual plan rather than going out with another set of information for the public to consider and then receive submissions, etc. So you've done that at the same time, just piggybacking on the process, but then they are standalone decisions, the same as I say that the annual plan is a standalone decision. So in terms of the minutes, they're actually just notes of that deliberation process, of that workshop process, but these do have to be standalone from a legislative perspective.
Yeah, Your Worship, through
Councillor Krastowski next. Sorry.
Thank you. Not having been party to the official annual plan process, I can see it from the other perspective. And I'm asking the question, where in the annual plan's summary document and in the annual plan does it specifically direct and inform the reader of the fact that those 4 or 5 items and projects are not an integral part of the annual plan process, and as such will be dealt with in a separate from the annual plan, albeit alongside of the annual plan.
Again, I'd say that the annual plan is, you've got about 7 items here which all relate to the information that we went out to consult with, and they each need their own decision and resolution. So even the annual plan itself comes with, 3 different papers in here, and a whole lot of different resolutions, because there's a different decision in terms of adopting the annual plan, there's a different decision in terms of making the changes that you want from the annual plan, and a different decision in terms of setting the rate. So all of those items combined are what you went out and consulted with. From a mechanism perspective, to get to the end point, this is the way legally that you've got no choice. You can't make a decision outside of this room, outside of this discussion. So this is the way that then you can take the feedback that you've had, the early discussions that you've had, and transfer that discussion to a decision. This is the process to do that.
The point that I'm making is nowhere in the documents is the reader informed of the fact that the items that the 4 or 5 items that we are talking about are in fact outside of the annual plan and will be consulted on alongside of the annual plan. The reader is led to believe that all the items are an integral part of the annual plan process, and therefore, for me, for argument's sake, I could not and will not vote on the decisions as far as the annual plan is concerned, but theoretically I could have an input as regards to matters outside of the annual plan. All right? Now, the readers are not aware of that.
Through the chair, would it have made any difference to their opinion?
To my opinion?
To the submitters' opinions?
I believe that question is irrelevant because you have to look at the Act, at the Local Government Act, and the Local Government Act quite clearly states under 14 Section 1, conduct its business in an open, transparent and democratically accountable manner. It's just one. I go on. Section 39. Local authorities should ensure that the governance structures and processes are effective, open and transparent. And lastly, Section 82, that persons who will or may be affected by or having an interest in the decisions or matter should be provided by the local authority with reasonable access to relevant information in a matter and format, blah, blah, blah.
So
I question whether, in fact, this council can say it has been open and transparent.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, those sections that you read out are exactly why we've got separate items under each of these points. Because, again, I keep harping back and repeating myself, the only way you can make a decision is to have a standalone paper, a standalone discussion and debate, and then passing a resolution, whatever that resolution may be. So it would be technically completely illogical to those sections that you've just read out if we were to do it in any other way. Legally, we couldn't.
I think what Councillor Krasowski's getting to, perhaps we could add it forward in the welcome letter or whatever it is, outlined. I think it's a good point, but I can understand where the officers are coming from too. Legally, we're doing it right, but what you're saying is perhaps we could have had a note in there somewhere saying this is running.
There's nothing to indicate the annual
point taken. Thanks, Councillor.
Through Mr. Chairman, it probably is an unusual thing that we did in terms of consult. It made good efficiency sense to consult at the same time.
I agree.
But normally you don't. Normally you just go out with an annual plan, and the annual plan is the thing that you go out with. So we've probably created that ourselves.
Because we've asked the public more than what we normally do.
That's right.
We've created a bit of a, Councillor Williamson, then Councillor Hickling.
Oh, thank you. I think Bernard, Councillor Krasowski's pretty well covered what I was trying to get at, but probably, obviously, when we did through the submission deliberation process with these items, it wasn't actually formal. It has to still go to the formal resolution. It wasn't a formal resolution process. So this is where we're at now.
You didn't have a mover and a seconder. You didn't have notice of that resolution then put forward. All those things you legally need to do.
Councillor Hickling.
Well, it's just my opinion that it was convenient for us to use the annual plan process to consult on these 4 items, Your Worship. And I think it was made quite clear to us through the deliberations that we would have to make a separate resolution on these items.
Through Mr. Chairman, 2 points on that, Councillor Hickman. I was under the impression that we were voting and that was put in stone. This was a public meeting. The public are under the impression that we've already decided on that. We could change that now and we're going to look like gooses, that we could change it. And it was not made clear to me that we were not actually voting for a decision. We were voting for voting's sake, obviously, on the day.
Straw poll. You didn't have a movement.
No,
you didn't have a second.
where in the document, or where were we told as councillors that that was the case? I've been misled.
At the end of the deliberations, I particularly raised the issue about 4 or 5 items that we actually passed a resolution on. And it was particularly noted that these were separate to that process. So that's why I think I'm quite comfortable that I was quite aware that these would come up as separate items or a separate resolution. We did pass 4 or 5 resolutions at the end of the deliberations, and they're in the annual plan process. So,
okay, I think we're oh, sorry, Councillor Trim.
Yeah, and also I think it was made quite clear, like, say, for example, how Turangi was brought in, the revitalisation. We all knew that that wasn't part of our decision. That was information was gathered from the consultation process, and that was going to be given to the board to make that decision. So I just think we used the annual plan as a consultation process for a range of different things.
Instead of going out separately every time.
Yeah, and that would have cost us a lot more.
Your Worship, can you then explain to me why during the annual plan process we made some monetary decisions? These are monetary decisions. They were taken as read. They're in the documents as being, for instance, the 3,500 for the new water treatment, whatever. If you read the documentation, the 2 pine trees that we've read on the weekend, the 4 items we're discussing, there are conclusions made on those 4 items already. For instance, the Turangi-Tongariro Street car park states very clearly that it will now be part of the long-term plan decisions. Can you explain why that is?
No. Rob, I think it's going to say.
Perhaps explain this way, that the sequence that these resolutions come before you is very important in respect of that, of the money part of the Turangi-Tongariro Street car park. What will happen is the Turangi-Tongariro Street car park resolution is before the annual plan resolution. So the annual plan resolution will need to change slightly depending on how you pass your resolution on Turangi-Tongariro Street. We have to put up in front of you a form of documentation, and as I say, that's why the sequence is very important. So, depending on what you decide on Turangi-Tongariro Street, there might be a very minor change to the annual plan number.
Is it correct, Your Worship, that what we've just heard, that the 4 decisions made with outcomes are not in the form of a resolution? So effectively, if we debate the one we're looking at now, and it is lost, there's nothing formal to say what's actually in the plan at the moment from staff.
Through the Chair, these are standalone. As I referred to earlier, the financial implications of these 4, if there are any, because 3 of them in fact don't have financial implications, do not form part of the annual plan. And as far as the Turangi-Tongariro Street is concerned, should one of the options in the resolution be agreed to, then there is potential for future capital expenditure, but that will be discussed in the long-term plan.
Okay, thank you.
I think those 2 gentlemen might be in for the traffic comment.
Okay, Karen.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Events Manager, nice to see you here. Sorry about the slight delay in your presentation, but yeah, the floor's yours if you want to talk to the item, please. Item number 4.
Thank you. I'm taking the document as read, and I'll
happy to take any questions.
Okay, have we got any questions? Queries? Councillor Krasuski.
On 4x4, under financial considerations, am I to assume now that we are selling the old screen?
We've sold the screen and trusses. They were old technology.
Perhaps later on you can tell me how much we sold it for.
No problem. Councillor Dollins.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sharon, just a question on 4/3. Right at the bottom it says Council will approve the content of advertising as per our resolution and when we pass it and delegate that to officers. Do you see that as taking much of staff's time up? I was just wondering what the opportunity cost is to us for managing that. Do you see that as a very labour intensive process, or how do you see that working from a practical point of view?
Okay, I don't see it taking up a lot of time because a lot of the information is supplied by officers anyway through our events team. The community messages would go out through our comms team, and the protocols set really quite strict boundaries.
Okay, no, that's good. And no, I found this was very comprehensive.
Okay, thanks. Just a question I had, with modern technology these days, and I haven't picked it up in the actual agreement, but how your TV at home, sort of you buy one this week and it goes out of date next week. Now there's curved TVs and all that sort of thing. Have we got a clause in the agreement where it will be upgraded, or when it becomes a bit blurry, or is a better technology available?
Yeah, we understand that the supplier is going to be leasing the screens, so they will be updated periodically. However, we can include a clause such as you suggested in the lease agreement.
I think it's just as long as we don't end up with a dinosaur there in 5 years' time with old technology and there's been superseded. So if something not too unworldly to operate would be ideal. Thank you.
Well, Your Worship, just on page 4/3, just a small typo error with the running time. 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. should be 6 to 12 a.m. So the resolution's correct. But
oh, yes.
Councillor
You stole my thunder there before, Your Worship. I'd have my last question relates to 4/3, the top section. The percentages that you're looking at, are they based on an hourly basis or are they based on a daily basis? And the reason why I ask is that it is conceivably possible that the community messages may all be played at, say, 11 p.m. at night time.
No, that isn't the intention. The intention is that with the consultation with the supplier, he's well aware that the key focus is events, with the community messages being meshed in there, and we will have a running, if you look at the image on attachment 3, there will be a running message board along the bottom, so those community messages will come up regularly during the day, as will what's on this month with our events, plus the big advertisers messages above with the imagery.
Just lastly on that, now that you've shown me that picture again, to refresh my memory, the way it's pictured there would imply that you can only view that screen going north.
That would
so there's no equivalent going south.
The reason for that is that we are replacing the vinyl banners with digital screens, so we are updating the technology for the way we advertise to a more effective and efficient way. We went out to RFP and the recommendation was to go digital. So rather than make a bigger impact on the domain, we've kept it to the site where current advertising is, and the way it's facing to be respectful of the cenotaph and also the whakaaro. We were reluctant to look at other positions because it created other issues and became problematic.
Just a clarification here, 4/3, the proposed run time is 6 a.m. to 12 p.m.
12 midnight.
12 midnight. So it's 12 a.m.
It should be AM, yeah.
Should be 8.
The other document states AM.
12 midnight probably would have been a safer way to put it. Yeah.
Chairman, Your Worship, I need to come to grips with what is the total liability to council cost-wise. One lot of papers we had mentioned 3,000 to connect the power, 4,000 for ongoing running costs. We're now looking at a minimal one-off power installation of $4,000. What's the true cost to council?
Councillor Buddy, the true cost to council is the power connection, the one-off power connection cost to the site. There are no ongoing power costs because the supplier is taking on that cost. It's becomes significantly less anyway because of the new technology. Instead of running on 3-phase power, it's now going to be running on 1-phase power. So since February and now we've moved on with the technology, so it's become.
So it's a very minor point, Your Worship, but when it comes to the cost from council after the selling of the screens, does that come out of the events budget?
The power cost?
Well, it's basically for events and that sort of advertising. What budget does it come out of?
You're talking about the $4,000? $4,000. It's coming out of the sale of the previous screen.
The total 4,000?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, queries? Karen, Nick,
I just want to signal that I'll be abstaining from this and all the other 4 items as I was not part of the deliberations and submission process.
Thanks. That's it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, just and I'm happy to second it. Karen and Nick, I know you've done huge amount of work on this and well done. And I think it's it's an eye to the future. We've got to go digital. It's the way it is, and we've got to attract those passers-by, and we can attract them a bit more attention. Certainly, the ability to live stream events to that particular site is fantastic. I'm thinking of Anzac Day and those sorts of events like that. And indeed, if there's an event down in Turangi or something like that, we can live stream it to there. Mangakino, the same sort of scenario. So I think it's just a wonderful outcome, and a private-public partnership, which is great. So happy to second the resolution today. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried.
Your Worship, before Mr. Reader goes, could we congratulate him from council on the work done by you and Helen, in particular Chloe looking after the ambassador last Thursday night. It was an event that was well worth going to, and I congratulate your team.
Well done.
Sorry, Your Worship, can we just also add John Ridd and his team to that, because I think the grounds look spectacular and it was an all-round effort.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Your Worship.
Yes.